Welcome, Storyteller to Storyteller. Storyteller to Storyteller is creative conversations with me. I'm Shannon Cason. I tell stories on stages, pages, and on my podcast. I do a podcast called Shannon Cason's Homemade. And I'm glad you're here with me today. Sundays at 8 p.m. usually is when I had these conversations. But of course, today is Super Bowl Sunday. So we're doing it a little early. I still wanted to do it because my Lions didn't win. So who cares who wins the Super Bowl now? But at the same time, I just wanted to do something today. And today, well, let me say this. If you like storytelling, make sure you like and subscribe. This is a brand new page. Like and subscribe. Become a part of it. And enjoying the conversation too, because I got a great guest today. The guest for today is Dr. Ray Christian, friend of mine. Dr. Ray Christian. He's an esteemed storyteller, historian. He does a popular podcast right now, popular, brand new old podcast. It's an old podcast, but it's brand new. It got a brand new refreshment with PRX and the Moth. It's called What's Ray Saying? If you haven't listened, you got to listen. But I'm happy to have Ray here today. His stories are rich with texture. His voice is magical in a sense. And I feel funny saying somebody voice magical, but at the same time, it is. I've featured him on my podcast. He's been featured at my live shows. And now he's on my YouTube. So I'm going to bring him up. We're going to have a good conversation. Let's see how this goes. Boom, boom, boom. What's
Shannon,
up, Ray?
My brother, how's it going?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Good seeing you as always with your stand-up comedy background.
Yeah, man. Old guys in technology. We need to leave that shit alone, man.
You funny. Hey, Ray, what's your Sunday routine? I know this is Super Bowl Sunday, but what's your normal Sunday routine?
Getting up, feeding animals, church, back, recording. You know, that's usually what I do on Sundays.
Feeding the animals. Where you at in the world?
Rural North Carolina, Western North Carolina, in the Blue Ridge Mountains, 3,000 feet above sea level. Only black man, probably for miles and miles. I think I saw two other dudes at the garbage dump, but they was like super low and try to like get away from me. And I ain't want to, point the brother out if he was looking like he was in escape mode. You know how that, we out here. So yeah, you could probably get within 25 miles of my house. You don't even have to have the address and say, hey, you know where the black dude live at? And you'll probably, you'll probably find me, man. So
you work in that stand-up background, man. You work. All you need is a mic in front of you. Ray, it's like this, man. I don't even remember where we first met. I don't remember. I think maybe you reached out in some way or something like that, and we met online in some way. I don't remember, but once we met, and you got What's Up Cynthia out there, and Mother Boomer. She said hello, Ray Christian. But Mother Boomer, I had her on last week. But Cynthia. I don't remember where we first met. I know once we met, we were like friends in storytelling and then in podcasting. And that's what I think of you. When I think of you, I think like amazing storytelling, like really down from the heart storytelling. I think of you as a podcaster now because you've been podcasting for so long. I think of you as a historian too. I used to listen to What's Ray Saying. Me and my ex-wife Cindy, we listened to it, and she loves history. And your stories would intertwine so much with history, and you would give so much information on things that we may have been, we black folks, but we don't know everything just because you're black. So it was like you would give a lot of history in the background on so many different things. But we shared a lot of stages, and I talked to you a lot when you were starting your podcast as well. But that's what I know. take me through, like, take me a little deeper. Tell me a little bit more about your background. Introduce yourself a little bit more.
All right, so let me start by giving you your flowers. You asked me how did we meet. Let me tell you what made me reach out. Now, at this point, I was playing around with the idea of storytelling, but very difficult because all I was getting was rejections. Maybe it had something to do with the fact I didn't read the damn instructions that say don't do this shit and don't do that shit. But I would just send them out anyway because I'm Ray Christian, right? I don't have to listen to none of that shit that about instructions, about parameters, about what we looking for. I was just throwing my shit out there, because I'm me, right? Rejection, 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 rejection. And it got to a point where it was like, my style don't work. There's nobody out there like me anyway. It's like if you're black and you have any degree of success, you're a flexible person, right? You're a person that know how to do the bends, to get around certain, cultures outside of ours. Not so the other way around, right?
I think you broke up a little bit. Hopefully you come back. There
Yeah,
you go. I see you now. I see
yeah.
you.
I got a guest with me here who I need to. You got
What, the dog knocked over a cord or something? He's disappeared into the
right
coming
into the
out
wall.
back like the Kool-Aid man. Uh-oh, Kool-Aid man.
Yeah, just like that. Oh, sorry for the awful, awful video. This is real. It's not like a.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
anyway,
You were
I was
saying
all,
you were saying
I,
you wasn't getting through as far as on.
I wasn't
I don't
getting
know what
through,
this
but
was. Storytelling shows, or what you talking about? Podcasts or what?
yeah, both. Storytelling shows, podcasts. And I ain't gotten to the. I'm gonna try to jump to the chase on this one. The thing is, I was of the mind at that time that there really was nobody that sounded like me I could relate to anyway because I'm just being flexible. Whatever the style of the shows is, I'm trying to work within that
Yeah,
parameter
yeah, yeah. You
until
going
I
through the
heard
learning stage. Yeah.
you. I can
Yeah.
remember like it was yesterday, and I heard you on Snap Judgment, and my mind was blown. I'm going, damn, this bro, who is he? What else he got? And then
It's go. You breaking up,
all
man.
right,
Dang. No, no, go ahead.
probably a squirrel out there on the line or something.
This what when you go into the
Yeah, that's
rural country, this what happens. Yeah, but let's go, man. Let's go. So, but I appreciate all the flowers, brother. I appreciate you, man. That
no
means
man.
that
You
means
was
the
the
world to me.
man. There are a lot of people who you have influenced their style dramatically, and you influenced mine. Your natural vibe is like until I saw you, there was nobody else. There is no other. Whenever people ask me about storytelling, I think about it. I always point to you because you're the one that I kind of like wanted to. Your vibe was the vibe I wanted to have. It was real and relatable,
Yeah,
off the
yeah.
script, funny
You
as
you
hell.
you're making me uncomfortable now. I'm getting
I,
uncomfortable.
I, I
But
bro,
look,
I'm
But look, it was the same. It was mutual because when I first heard you, I was amazed. You know what I'm saying? Just how natural you were. So that means a lot to me coming from you because I think you may have heard me first, but also I got a lot just watching how your comfort is and how you've done everything. And then when we got in contact, just it was immediate connection. You know?
Oh yeah, so that's significant in how I got started because the regular pitching shows it didn't work. When I started powering it down a little bit, being more what I was in the classroom, I was doing in class. I need to repeat that because so what I was doing in class, is what I was doing on the podcast.
Yeah,
Teaching
yeah,
history from the perspective of you, how you relate to history. Otherwise, history is just boring to most people. Your eyes glaze over. But I think that a lot of people use history more than they think they do, just probably not in a very intentional. like I do.
Yeah,
When you
yeah,
tell stories about how you were growing up, you have to give people some background about the history of hip hop, right? You have to take them back, give them some context, you give them a little history, and then you talk about how that impacts your life. And usually, people do that in storytelling without thinking about it much. Got to give you a little historic background and then tell you, well, at this age, I was doing this. And then back then, we didn't dress like that. We didn't talk like that. The styles were different, this and that. And then you get into your story,
yeah,
put it in
yeah,
context because, you're talking to people of many, many ages. But more to the point, I think I was just trying to spread my wings and get into areas of storytelling that weren't typical. I just say areas of speaking,
yeah,
areas of talking, areas of trying to put it out there for yourself. And again, a lot of little things I was getting into. And like you once said, nobody told me I couldn't. So you tried shit. An example would be when I intentionally tried to get into voiceover, it wouldn't happen. I couldn't make it happen. There was lots of people out there wanting lots of money to teach me how to do it and shit like that. I talked to people, couldn't get into it at all. But something as casual as saying, "Hey, I'll do voiceover for you for a little of nothing," and damn, people actually responded to that because they couldn't afford to go to the real professionals, and they ain't know who to ask.
yeah,
You
yeah,
ain't got to get. You didn't have to give Ray Christian thousands of dollars. Shit, a few hundred, I could break you off a couple sentences, and
yeah,
then
yeah,
that actually led to something else and something else and something else in that unlikely area, right?
yeah,
Where you're still using your voice, the opportunity to teach, uh, being on different kinds of podcasts,
yeah.
where the parameters are kind of different. Um,
Yeah,
I,
yeah. It's like a learning experience. It's like going through the stages and kind of doing
yeah,
different things and learning different techniques and all those things. As with any
yeah.
craft, in any kind of art that we go through, I consider it a craft. Let me
Mhm.
ask you this: on the far as what the history, what ignited your love of history so much? Because you incorporate history so much into your stories. What was there like a
So
specific moment that
I
that,
I
that jumped out?
I grew up in a historic district.
He'll come back soon. That rural internet. We gotta.
Man, come on, it's real life out here in the mountains, man. We just
You say you
bear.
grew up in a historic.
So I grew up in a historic district, but it wasn't like it was on anybody's what would you call it? I don't know, them historic drives, no tour guide would take you to where the hell I was living at,
Where's
But
that?
that was in Richmond, Virginia, the cradle of the Confederacy, and all
Yeah,
that,
I've been
and all
there.
their
I've been there.
monuments and every school I ever knew was all named after Southern Confederate heroes. But anyway, I always had a general liking for history, but I was not much of an academic and shit in high school. I barely
Mhm.
graduated from high school. But the time that I left home, the time I was in the army, I got to see a lot of stuff. Still, that didn't really super ignite me, but a lot of stuff was going on in the world. And when I was working on my bachelor's degree, I majored in history,
Did
and
you?
that,
Okay.
yeah, that cranked it up to the next level. And then, of course, when I got out, I got a master's degree in history and public history. And so
You did that. You did that immediately after you got out of college. I mean, out of
out of
undergrad.
the army, not immediately. I had another a detour to law school, and they went, "No, get your ass out of here." So I detoured. Then I went to the thing that I loved, that I was nerding out about, and that was history. More specifically, I have a degree in public history. Now,
Okay.
public history is regular history, but you throw on this added layer of the kind of history that people use outside the classroom, which is like museums, archives and records, historic buildings and artifacts,
I get it. Okay.
historic recreations, movies, things like that. The way people who are not in the classroom use history every day.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
So that could be as little as trying to explain to a movie director that they wouldn't dress like that, to how to preserve historic things, how to interpret photographs, you know,
Mhm.
rummage through a antique mall and stuff like that. So that's public history. So I guess I have more, not so much political history, but I'm into like cultural history,
Okay.
things people left behind. The images, things you can take from photographs. And
When you think of those things, do you think about because all the things you mentioning, what brings up to me is like the stories in those things, like the cultural things, the things you see, the things that's left behind. You relate those stories and you relate them into your own personal narrative stories as well.
right, I try to make connections between now and in the past. In terms
Okay.
of everything we do. It's just a small step, because history is not a series of stops and starts. It's one long continuum. You from your parents to your grandparents. I mean, just as a matter of historic context. So my mother is a grandchild of slaves. My grandmother was a child of slaves. Every old person I knew when I was in elementary and middle school had that story. Times when all the old folks were the children of slaves. So it was so not uncommon that us kids were eye rolled when somebody would get brought to school to talk to you about the old days, if you know how kids were, because they were so damn common and so everyday, and they the mean old dude up the street, and you ain't. And of course, that means everybody I knew grew up in Jim Crow, because I
I'm, I'm
did.
I'm curious of this when you bring up slaves and the parents. I mean, the kids are slaves and the grandkids are slaves. What what articles or things went through that time till now? Like, what are some of the things? Because you say public public history. What are some of the
What?
what do they call that?
No, I'm recording. No, damn, kids want my comfort dog.
No, what are some of the things that gone through those generations that we have to this day? Like, because you've studied these
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
probably the thing is probably.
Artifacts. That's the question. That's the
Oh
word.
yeah,
Artifact.
artifacts. Now, the most difficult thing would be being of Black American descent is we don't have a lot of stuff that were passed off, because you have several generations of probably illiteracy. You probably got one strand of your family that moved on into the 20th century with some education and some knowledge, about what's going on in the world. But a lot of things that were common, they didn't hold on to. But the one thing, because of literacy being an issue,
He gonna come back.
he's gone again.
No, no, you. I know you gonna come back. I know you gonna come back.
I'm back. Am I back?
Yeah, yeah. You
Am I?
back. You back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What?
Artifacts from that time. We just get a little bit of a
All right. All
we
right.
get a little bit of a drum roll on it. You know what I'm saying?
All right. The number one artifact left from that era would be stories about how things were. Most of the physical artifacts are not left, and photographic evidence is usually not reliable. And I'll tell you why. People often make reference that they'll show you some pictures of their old relatives, and they'll have the way they're dressed very fancily. They look beautiful and glamorous in some of these old photos and things like that. Well, just like now, when you can go to a store, a place, a photo booth, and they'll put something in your hand, a dress on. Well, that's how it worked back then. They were the original. They were the OGs of taking them cabana chair pictures and all that stuff, because that's photographs were hard to come by. They were hard to get, and so you had to put all out. For
So they
photo
give you
day,
a
man,
prop
you
or
had to.
something. They give you a prop.
Yeah,
They go
yeah,
all in
yeah.
on.
You a farmer, a street person, somebody that's poor. You ain't got it. What you do, you go to the shop and they get you all dressed up for your photo.
Ah,
And also in
that's why
some
them
photo,
clothes were so baggy sometimes.
You you start asking questions, right? And so those photographs could be a record of a history that's can be misinterpreted because they was putting their best foot forward, and people can try to get meanings from them that don't match with what would have been in the era. And we're doing that now. We create photos that are not real examples of the world you live it in. You go to a club, everybody a baller, but not really. Just just for the
Just
photo.
in the music and just in the look of things. Yeah, you
Yeah,
would think
yeah, yeah,
everybody
yeah,
rich, you know what I'm saying?
yeah. So you could, so I have an interest in finding meaning behind stuff like that. Like I said, as an example of how other generations tried to preserve the past and how they can get misinterpreted. A lot of them old Polaroid photographs captured some one of a kind moments, and they gone now.
Yeah, yeah.
They didn't last. You put that in near the window, man, and it don't got all
Yeah,
curled up,
yeah,
and
yeah.
those histories are lost. There are ways to preserve that stuff, but I'm really into the artifacts that we left behind. You get a lot more stuff from the 20th century, clothing they may have left behind. But again, what makes it rare? Because just like today, they get tired of stuff, they get rid of it. It
Yeah.
was old to them,
We
and
f
then you
we
try
forget
to,
we forget those things have a historical value, yeah.
well, like, yeah, you take
Or we
sleep,
don't even think it is we living in the world of that time, yeah.
right? You living in the world that time, and you can't. You go like, man,
You're not thinking
no,
of future casting what something is, you know?
it's just another T-shirt to you, man. You just cannot. You can't keep them all, you
Yeah,
know. And
yeah.
the person that does and manages to pass them on, or you pass on, and your baby girl finds it in a box that you had, and it had no value to you, but now it has value to the world because it represents an era that doesn't exist anymore because those disposable items get thrown away. That's why they become rare in the future. The more everyday it was, the less likely you'll find it because
Let
people
me
didn't think much of them. They tossed them.
let me ask you this.
Who knows how many original bush combs or them rakes
I
with the
was
black
thinking about
power
that. That's
stick.
what I was just thinking about because I saw a lady. She was like 100 and something years old, and she talked about going to get dogwood and making brooms out of the dogwood from the.
Yeah.
Over time it would turn into a pretty good broom, you know. But let me ask you this: like, you're able to bring a lot of this history and these stories from history into your storytelling. But is it any can you put your hand on any like technique that you're using to do that? Because you make it interesting. Your voice is interesting just by itself, but then it's entertaining as well. It's funny, it's enlightening. How do you because history doesn't I mean for some people they excited about history no matter
Mhm.
if it's boring or not, but then you make it fun, exciting, and I want to listen to it. Like what techniques do you use to do that?
I try to bring out the human element of it and to try to express the idea that oral history is not entertainment per se, man. It's just people putting out the world as they understood it. And it's not about the historic facts or even being truth. It's about perspective. Uh, what you thought it was or what you felt about it at the time that it happened. And that is never wrong, you know. And so the technique of oral history means that with respect to myself, when I'm talking about me historically, I don't try to be too smart. I talk about the world as I understood it when it was happening. And then I give the historic, this is what was happening. Not like I was some smart ass historian when I was living
I
through
love
it,
that. When you
you
try to
know.
be too smart, you lose people. That's what
Yeah, and that's where the lesson is lost. You try to go, and I was so smart as a kid. I understood that the black people in this community, I didn't know shit, right? I'm living it, but not understanding it. So when I'm telling the story, I'm telling it from the perspective of this is who I was then. These are the limited views that I had on the world. Some ignorant, some way out there, and some just I was a kid, you know. And so I don't try to go. And I knew all the time that he was going to be an evil person. I didn't know shit. Okay. So here's the story, right? I'm I'm walking around the corner and people go, well, you should have known. No, I ain't know. And that's how you be too smart. And then after that point, then I go do the history. So I'll usually start in the writing. I'll write my story, whatever the
Mhm.
story is, and then I'll go back into the why. What was I missing? What was I missing historically that made me think this way? Why did my mama act that way? Why did black people in my neighborhood do this? Why we ate this? Why we talk like this? Why we look different? Um,
In
like I
your
said,
editing process is what you bringing out that those those details.
right,
Okay.
right, right,
Or
right,
historic
right, right.
details. Yeah.
Right. And since, public history is my thing, it's not, it's not a grab, for me to do it. And plus, I have primary sources, references. I have hundreds of books that are primary sources that give me references to little details, books about photography and analyzing photographs and little nerd, little detailed stuff
You
that
pull
when
them out. You pull them out. They set all on a desk, and you find and
man,
search
I
your
got
book.
millions of them in here, man. millions of them, man.
I wish you
Historic
didn't have that.
texts, original
I wish you
books,
didn't have that
that
stand up
help me
background and let us just see.
analyze, people's stuff. Every old clothes got meanings, if people are into it. Of course,
Yeah.
you start talking like that, their eyes will glaze over. In the field of public history, they don't usually have the most aggressive people. I think I might have been the meanest person in my class, because a lot of so you don't get to talk to a lot of public historians. They hide in the back, you know. They don't work at customer service, you know, until
Uh-huh.
they steal something, you know.
No, that's what's up. Okay, so let's talk about your podcast.
Yes.
What's Ray saying?
Yes.
Now, I was I was there at the start.
Yes,
Like I
sir.
say, we've been friends in storytelling and podcasting for a long time. Now, tell me why did you start What's Ray saying, and then talk about the evolution of it through the years to where it is now?
Great question. So it's like three major evolutions in that. The first one was my students were telling people about the podcast, not the podcast, excuse me, telling people about the class, Students, my class was overrun with students,
What
right?
was the class?
This was a freshman seminar course that I was teaching going called Blacks in the First Person, right? It was a survey of African American history using public history, stuff, words that people said, the stuff they left behind. And it got super, super popular, so popular, you know, keeping it real. When a class taught by a black man gets really, really, really popular, and you have a lot of athletes, somehow or another, the system, you end up having more than half your class is student athletes, right? That they'll say, "Oh no, we don't intentionally." It's like, what's my reputation? Am I just easy, or the students like the class, or damn both? So my
Yeah.
class got super popular, and you got regular students trying to get in, but all the athletes are just packed into the class, right? So it got super popular. So the words kind of got out somewhere. Somebody from this national show um, contacted me and said, "Wow, we're very interested in what you're doing there, but our hard rule is we don't do stories about professors or anything like that because there's millions of them and they always think they got something to say, but they're not really interested. They ain't trying to promote your class." And they made that kind of clear to me. Big national show. So they wanted some audio of the class. I give them audio. Oh, it's not good enough. Give me another piece. I said, oh, it's not good enough. Get another piece. Oh, that's not good enough. Well, listen, I'm teaching. I can't walk around the classroom and put mics in students' faces. And the university was starting to get kind of weird about it too. They wanted to know what was up. If you could get more close into the student's face, we're gonna want to we need a better understanding of what's going
Of
on.
what's going on? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so this national show, in the end, they went, nah. They stopped. They weren't
It
calling
didn't
them.
work out. Yeah, yeah,
No,
yeah,
it
yeah.
didn't work out. But because of that, I started thinking, well, let me go ahead and try to do what I was doing in the classroom and record it a little bit better. And so I started like that.
Okay. Okay.
And so I went through that primary evolution.
Yeah.
And all that time, I was trying to get more attention to the podcast. I really couldn't do it. I came to the realization that you ain't gonna make no money doing this, dude. If that's what your dream is, so why in the hell are you podcasting now? And that made me think about something about back to public history, and that was your legacy. That let's say this shit fall apart. This is like my photo album. That maybe one day, somebody in my family. So now I'm recording my own obituary. Now my motivation is different. I ain't gonna make no damn money. What's the best me? What's the shit that I want my family? And so once my motivation changed, I think that the quality and the direction of the show changed almost for the better because I
Because
was
it had a deeper intention than just putting it
right.
out there. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
have to think about what nobody else was thinking. I was more into you ain't giving me no money. I can do
Do
any
whatever I
damn
want.
thing I want to. Until somebody put some cash up here, I'm gonna go buck ass wild. I'm gonna talk about the stuff that makes me feel good. And I did that. And it got better, learns a little more about audio, what the power of editing, I ain't learn a whole bunch, you know, but I learned a little some. That got a little bit better, but then the next evolution occurred when I got props from the history community about that was serious validation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That okay, your history is tight, and I was always afraid in the podcast that somebody, some geek, some asshole, some super nerd, some damn professor out there was gonna go, you don't know what you're talking about.
Cause you was
So
gonna have
I,
a
I
beef.
put
The
a
beef brings a lot of attention too, though. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah,
but
yeah,
but
yeah.
but you had that in the back of your head. You
It
thinking
was
like,
always in the back of my
I
head
got you.
that in the style that I use to teach, you got to be able to back the shit up because somebody out there going, you saying this pretty casually, man. You know what? Where you coming from? Where you getting that shit from? How you validate that? So I was always concerned about that to the point that where I'm at now is I'm ready to fight. If somebody goes, well, that shit's not true. Had one person do it, one, you know, which brings
Mhm.
me to that next evolution. And that was, another national show uh wanted to bring me closer in because for some time, for a couple of years, the podcast was required listening, for the organization. I didn't know that. And a couple other small groups of people are required listening. So long story short, I got approached to relaunch the podcast, and PRX gave me some good engineering support. You know how it is when you have these ideas in your hand, but you may not have the technical skills to
Yeah,
make that shit happen. But up here in the brain, you
you
got
see it.
all.
Yeah,
As long as you're in the studio and ain't got to be pushing no buttons, and you just the idea man. I want it to sound like, and then bring it down a little bit. I want to be that guy. And so they gave me an opportunity to do that. It's like where every time I could say something. This was Mark Pagan was the senior producer that PRX hooked me up with, and I would just say it, and he could make it happen. And then it's like, what? Yeah. You can have that sound. You could, yeah, we can make it go in and out. Yeah, we can bring this part. Yeah, we can actually go down and record your sister.
yeah,
That's the final revolution. But
yeah,
even in that, it's important to learn about the business. And that was like my all my early focus after I had said I didn't care.
yeah,
Now it comes back around to the business because the world of podcasting has changed dramatically in the last 10 couple of years.
yeah,
And it's like for all those people who just was doing podcasting and storytelling in that form, it was bad for them.
yeah. A
You
lot of
know,
layoffs, a lot
yeah,
of company dissolves, and A lot of mergers. Yeah.
So, getting having had your fingers in different places uh, was to my advantage. So now,
Yeah.
and the fact that I told stories or operated in story venues that were all over the place,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
kinds of styles, and there's a couple of them I won't do again, but I experienced it. And the two
Yeah.
extremes are, I told at uh,
Don't
at
say
this.
my show. I had you out.
Not
I had
extreme.
you out. Put you in the little shitty motel, and
No,
I
no, not
appreciate
no.
you working with me, brother.
No, man. You be go on Cat Williams on you.
Like he brought me out here and put me in this shitty hotel.
That Shannon Cason, man. Oh man. No, the extreme was I was told that they wanted me to perform at this gay club. And my thought was back then was, all right, they paying me, I'll be there. What is so? But when I get to the club, the first thing I noticed it was a little person working the door. That in of itself don't mean anything, but it would mean something later. Then I go in, I take a seat, and the first thing I see was this tall white girl with one of them captain's hats on, like a Nazi hat or something, and a tight leather skirt. And this black guy was wearing a diaper on his hands and knees with a dog collar around his neck, and she walked in with him, and he sat under the table and she was patting his head. That got my damn attention. Okay, not to be judgmental. I'm going like, okay, and I'm looking at now I'm really focused on the crowd, individuals, and then I noticed that, in terms of fashion, it was a lot of people wearing leather. Okay. Now, the performers who got on the stage was doing things I normally didn't see in the show. It was a person went up there was blowing fire. Can't say I've been to a storytelling show and saw nobody blow fire, but I saw it that night. Okay, that's different. We don't normally see that,
Some of
but
those
that's
New
different.
York shows got all that stuff. But
Hey
go ahead.
man, this down in the little corners in the back alleys of little old North Carolina, there might be a club that's got multicolored lights outside, and God bless them. It's a wonderful, but down
San
here in the
Francisco.
south, yeah, you wouldn't even notice it in the big city. So there was somebody was juggling, and and some woman got naked. And then it only then did it occur to me what was happening here. So they didn't tell me. They said it was a gay club. They didn't tell me that this particular night was for the.
I didn't ask him what he was wearing.
Hey
Well,
man,
you had stopped
no,
for a
no,
second.
no, no. I was not wearing no leather, man.
Okay, no,
I had a little
okay,
sports,
okay.
had a little sports coat and long pants, and
But
underwear.
I'm gonna let you finish. But the thing about being a storyteller is like sometimes you interest in settings just kind of like become a stories. That probably became a story in some way. But go
Well,
ahead. You said
they,
what was your did you do your performance?
I did, and they hated me. I got some like, look. There was people talking
It's hard.
about.
That's hard to come after though. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, you
Hard to
got
come
people
after fire throwing and
blowing, burlesque,
naked
yeah,
body is hard to
and
follow
I'm
too.
distracted. I'm looking at the brother on his knees with the damn dog collar on, and it's distracting me. I normally don't get distracted by no crowd presence like that, but that tested me. It
Yeah,
tested me
yeah, yeah.
because folks was doing stuff
But
right
this see,
while I'm
this
trying
is
to.
this is part of the being the performer, like doing all kind of gigs and all kind of shows. And the funny thing is too, like because you and me we can go on stage and tell a good story, entertain a crowd, get accolades from a crowd. But there's also times when we get nothing, and then going through those experiences just let you know to kind of temper the exciting times and temper the times when it's you know
Yeah, it was a
Somebody's
lesson.
going to sleep on you, just kind of even kill it all and just I'm gonna do what I do. They gonna do what they do.
There's some
And we're gonna see if
crowds
we
that
work
just
out.
ain't for you, man.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah.
I normally would say that's not the case, but that was one extreme. The other one was when I performed for the Klan unknowingly now. So don't ask me like, why in the world would you take? I didn't know that was the case. What was unknown to me is they have their family days too, where they come into like the mountains or the beaches, and they have like big picnic and family stuff. You don't see no robes or nothing. It's not like that. You know, they camp out, get away from the black people and brown people and, sinners or whatever. And so yeah, I gotta be kind of mute on some of these names. They might get me. I live amongst them, so I can't. So let's just say that this organization who it's their job to organize entertainment at these campsites for people who do that regularly, and that is a thing. So he invited me to be there to do this. So I went to this campsite. There were people like anxiously, awaiting the performance. They had a fire. It was like really nice. Man, when I walked up there on that platform, before I even got started, I could hear people mumbling. And somebody in the crowd said something like, where that nigga come from? And somebody else went, oh hell no, I ain't no way in hell I came up for that. Whose idea was this shit? Who planned this? Where's the manager? And blah blah blah. And it got a little louder and louder. So I go like, you ain't Scary Ray Christian, right? This is
Yeah,
my
you done
initial.
seen a lot. You a army vet, and I done heard some of your stories. Yeah, yeah.
However, I did notice, or it was made noticeable to me that people were armed. Of course they're gonna be armed, right? That's the culture, right?
Were
And
you?
no, I was not.
You wasn't okay.
They were. It's like I wouldn't perform at a place if I had to be
If
armed.
you had to be armed,
If
yeah.
I had to be.
That's part of your yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I get you. I get you.
So, to make this long story short, they was mumbling, but it was a small, so that's about 100 people were mumbling, and about a little group of about 15 or 20 people who really got in close to me and I got the impression they were trying to make sure nobody approached me. Right. They sat really close, and a couple of them had their kids with them, and they was being overly enthusiastic and applauding really hard. I didn't get halfway through the story before the camp manager came up to me, and he said, "Can I speak to you for a minute?" And I walked off the stage, and he said, "Listen, you don't have to finish, man. Here's your check. I appreciate you, and I'm so sorry. I'm embarrassed. I don't even know. I'm sorry." So, all right, shit. I took his
Yeah,
money.
I think he had ulterior motives though. Whoever got you to do a show like that, they
Yeah,
had some kind of motive to put you in an uncomfortable situation, or to kind of do that to you. I would always look at something like that as like, hey, why would they have me come up here?
yeah.
This,
Come on,
yeah,
man.
that don't make no sense.
So I
They
was
can't be,
leaving.
they can't be that clueless.
And I got about halfway to my car, and four little kids ran up on me, man. One I had a little bicycle, and the kid said, "Hey, mister, my mom said to tell you she really likes you, and you should have stayed." Shit, I'm going back. I walked my ass back down there, and I can remember the camp manager eyes just like, "No, shit. I'm Ray Christian. I went down there, and that little 50 group of 15 and 20 people was so so wonderful, so loud, and so brave. I did my thing, and then of course I got the hell up out of there. Safety, being cautious, because that might have been too much. But when I look at the two extremes,
Mhm.
those were two extremes that won't be repeating themselves, But it put me in a whole nother dynamic.
Never say never.
Boy, yeah, never say never. Yeah, I don't know anybody else could do. No, I wouldn't recommend it.
You don't know until they get you there. You be like, okay, I got a show in this area, and I'm going there, and it'll be some crazy stuff. Ray, let me ask you this, man. what's the qualities? Because you tell so many great stories. What's the qualities you consider of like a really good story? And then let me say this, like a really good storyteller. Like, what do you look at the qualities of an excellent storyteller? What story and storyteller?
Yeah,
What stands out
I'll
to you?
I'll put stories and I'll put the stories and the storytellers into two different groups. I'll put the storytellers in two different groups. There are some storytellers, there are entertainers, they're performers. Let's just say not everybody's entertained. They're performers. They come from performance backgrounds. Performance is what they're doing. Then there are storytellers who are just simply telling you their lived experience. They're not from a performance background. They just speak to people and capture people. And that is where I lean more closely to. I'm not no actor. I'm not a trained performance. I can't pretend to be other people very well. You know damn well who put him in, who cast him in this damn role, you know. But I can be the best version of myself. The best storytellers that I come across, like yourself, are people who have lived the life, then they talk about it. They, as opposed to a role. You're living somebody else's life. You're reading somebody else's words, or you're pretending to be somebody else. Yeah, if you're a good actor and you got the training, you could do that. But most
Yeah.
of us cannot, you know. And most of the people, some of the best storytellers, are not formally trained at all. They're things that you cannot teach.
I like the way you put this because I agree with you. I mean, I hear, and it don't matter. It don't necessarily mean that they. I love performance storytelling. People who
Hmm.
performers and very good
Hmm.
at it, you know. But then, like, listen to a pimp talk sometimes to tell
Uh-huh.
some stories. Be like, I'd be
Yeah.
like, listening. You know what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
listening to uh
Shoot.
somebody's grandma or something telling
Boy,
stories. I'm like,
yeah,
my
best
grandma
stories
tells good stories. My dad tells good stories. You know what I'm saying? And that's
because ain't
what
no
I
rules.
kind of
Ain't no
relate to a
rules.
lot. Yeah,
Ain't no
yeah,
rules when they telling stories, right?
yeah,
There
yeah,
ain't no parameters like time. You only got Dad, you only got 15 minutes. Hell no. This story will go as long as I want it to go until I get the point out, right?
yeah,
And I
yeah.
might repeat a couple pieces of it if you ain't heard it the first time. So in
What
the
what's a
real world, it goes like that.
what's a favorite story that you've saw on stage? We're talking about stage storytelling. What's one of your favorite stories that you've heard on stage? And don't say
Well,
me.
no,
Yeah.
you asked the question. You asked the question. You don't want you gonna edit out my answer. You don't want to you don't even want to hear. You can go ahead and put your fingers in your ear. You know, I heard two of them. Same guy told them from Detroit, E-course, I think. You
You
know,
silly.
powerful shit. It's like borrowing. Damn, I think that was probably the whole time I was teaching. Uh, the whole time I was teaching at the university, that is the one story I played for every class.
A lot of
Every
people
class.
play that one for classes. I,
Yeah.
I just was talking to somebody when I talked to Dana Norris. I talked to her a little earlier, and she said she played that one for a class. A lot of people play that one. Yep, yep.
It's beautiful. It's true. It's complete. It's vulnerable. It's all the components of a great story, not just a good story. Because in this case, you had to live the life to tell this one. This ain't no shit that you can kind of fictionalize. It's a real story, and
Mhm.
you told it well.
I
So those are
appreciate
the two components. It was performed well, and you lived it. It's extraordinary if you had told it well, poorly. So
it.
you could
Mhm.
have been drunk as fuck and told me this on a corner somewhere with teeth missing, and I would have been, damn, that's a story. You
Do
wouldn't have
you
had to be
have
on stage.
do you have one of your stories that was hard because that was a hard story to tell. It took me a while to kind of work. I wrote the story 2 years before I told it. You get what I'm saying?
Wow.
So, but on your end, do you have a story that's was hard for you to tell?
I think probably the most difficult bring it more closer in time is some of the episodes of the podcast, the most recent episodes of the podcast were very difficult for me to get through, difficult to record, and difficult for my family to hear because
Which ones were there? Which titles?
it was the what do I tell my son about becoming a man, and a river runs through it.
A river runs through. Yeah, yeah.
Those two had the most impact on my family personally. My sisters, my nephew, you know, my folks in, behind the wall in prison. Uh, because it's just, it's just the whole idea of that's in my head that my family is dying. It's so few of us, and we've watched. And anyway, me talking about that to my family was like, they had it. So that was very difficult for me. Uh, but I've been trying to like sharpen my knife when it comes to telling stories spontaneously. Get back to that kind of exercise the storytelling brain where I don't do a lot of not doing that, because shows, producers don't trust you enough. Snap has let me go off on the damn deep end a couple of times, a confessional, but not a lot of shows. I work within their parameters. But
Yeah, they want to
so
know. They want to know what's coming up. Yeah.
yeah. But for my own, the podcast gave me more room to do that. But external to that, I try not. They don't let you, or they kind of push back against you getting that deep. But those stories were hard for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Not
No,
hard.
the podcast is, you can feel, is from the heart. The fact that you had your family so close to the podcast as well, even in the creation of it, knowing that your son and hearing your wife and all those things makes it feel like really authentic to you, and really, like, I feel like I mean, I know you, but I don't know your wife, I don't know your son, I don't know, so I'm feeling like I'm getting deeper insight into your life and history as well. So I appreciate you opening that up for an audience to be a part of it, and I can understand that that is a challenging thing to do because the family's still there.
Yeah, you, yeah,
Yeah,
you've lived it, man. You
yeah,
you you know that, and that's that extra touch. We kind of know who this guy is, because like beyond that, it's got to be somebody behind the curtain. You talking, it's like the audience think we missing something. It's just you. Ain't you got family? Ain't you got shit going on? I do. I don't always talk about it, but because I live that kind of world. But
yeah,
going back to the whole legacy part, a lot of it's just I just want to get evidence that I lived and my family lived. My folks were illiterate, and since they didn't read and write, they left nothing, no written documentation that they ever were on this earth at all. As were millions of black people, black Americans who lived in this
yeah,
country. We don't know that they ever were here. They left nothing but their children. And it's now thinking about it that way. What's more important, and when I think about the episode, is how I can explain the little pieces of my life. Can't explain me as a person, but some all the pieces together, somebody in the future might go, this is what's up.
I want to do a quick, okay, this is some segments I want to do and kind of go through some segments. I call this read, watch, binge. And I just thought of this right before we got on got on camera. But I figured, like, read, watch, binge. What are you reading? What's a book or books that you think everyone should read?
Oh, everybody should read The Souls of Black Folks by W.E.B. Du Bois. That's in your essential reading, black folk. You gotta digest that one. And then the
Yeah.
contrast to that, written at the same time period, is Booker T. Washington's Up From Slavery. And you can, from those two books, they're historic in the sense that you get an idea how two men from two different parts of the country came to think about what black uplift is. And they contradict each other, but that's necessary for you to understand the
Yeah.
kind of split between black intellectual thought. We don't all think the same, but there's a kind of general vibe that goes one direction or the other that you can gather from when these two men. I'm a history nerd, so yeah, these are old ass books. You can
No,
probably
that's
get them on,
wonderful.
but
That's
they're
wonderful.
they're
What
essential
about,
reading.
okay, so okay, what's a movie documentary that that you would suggest?
Uh, you must look at Eyes on the Prize. Now, this documentary is essential because it's a visual record of the civil rights movement. Not only that, for a long period of time, and I think more than a decade, you couldn't even see this documentary
Wow.
because there was this ban on it, and simply because in the documentary, Martin Luther King is at a party, and the people sing "Happy Birthday" to him. And I don't know if you remember around the country, this whole thing went on about, how they would wish you happy birthday in the restaurants and things like that, and how they got moved away from, because whoever copyrighted the song, I didn't know they was still alive. I didn't know the damn song. I thought the song had been around
Oh,
for
is it
hundreds of
copyright
years.
on it?
Yeah, yeah. So it's only had been around. That song is not probably 50 years old. It's like
Okay, I
almost in
didn't
our
know that.
in our parents'
You talking about
lifetime.
the happy birthday to
To
you?
you, yeah. So for
Okay.
that reason, this thing was held back for all reasons for more than a decade, and then they started allowing in history classes to present it. Now it's back open; it's in the public domain again, but it's essential because of the amount of documentary evidence that you can see. It's there. You
In the
know,
movie. Okay,
yeah.
so what about binge? What about TV shows?
Oh man,
Briefly.
I got my favorites. Some of them I ain't proud of. Uh, it's from Twilight Zone to man, what's that show called, man? Real Housewives of Atlanta. But I don't like to talk about it. I don't like really. That's
I'm a,
that's
I'm a,
my. I might
I'm a
turn the
Real
channel if
Housewife
you came
watcher too.
over.
I
Oh,
I, I
okay.
have I missed some of the latest seasons, but I pretty much know all of them too. I know all the
Yeah,
people.
yeah. I hate watching. I'll look at them and just be talking dirt about them. While I'm watching. 90 Day Fiance.
I noticed
Uh,
one of them guys from medicine, the one that was a medicine, married to medicine or something.
yeah, yeah,
He be
yeah, yeah,
listening to
yeah.
the podcast, I think sometimes. Yeah, yeah. One of the
Yeah,
dudes on there.
and of
Yeah.
course I'm a big podcast listener. I'm all over the place with podcasts too. So
What's
yeah.
one of your favorites? What's one of your favorites? I like that question.
Uh, Something that everybody's probably not listening to. Oh, I hope you are. Would be something like Radio Diaries. Uh, I listen to that. You know, But all the national popular ones you could probably think of: This American Life, Snap Judgment, Spooked, Homemade with Shannon Cason,
My
uh,
man.
Rumble Strip. And then some podcasts are one off. I like they'll have a series that I don't need to hear twice. And of course I listen to quite a few history podcasts. You know,
Yeah, yeah. No, that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Oh, time is we about at an hour now, but I'm gonna ask you this one question because I like this one segment I do. It's called Be Brutally Honest. And it's a
yeah.
story, right? So I want to ask you a story. I want you to tell a story, but you don't have to tell like a Moth story or anything like that. We could just talk it through and it could be brief. But I got categories. Choose the category and then I'm gonna give you a prompt, and if it bring a story to mind, we just talk it out. So
All right.
your categories is Black History because it's February. Black History, Black Love, or Black Family. Pick one of those. Black History, Black Love, or Black Family.
I'm gonna go with Black Family.
Black Family. Share a story about when a valuable lesson or word of wisdom was passed down from parents or elders in your family. A story about a valuable lesson or word of wisdom was passed down from parents or elders in your family. Or you can say pass and I'll go to the next prompt if that don't bring nothing to mind.
Gee, that brought a million things to my mind. I'm gonna take a pass on that one though,
Okay, so
because I
the
got too
next one,
many.
a story about the role of food or culinary tradition within your family, within your Black family, meaning like Sunday dinner, barbecue, or whatever. Does that bring anything to mind?
Yeah, 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 yeah. So I grew up in Richmond, Virginia, and we lived near the James River. And every spring, you know, I would say the poorest people, would go down to the river, and the herring and shad would be running up the river by the millions and millions and millions. You could walk across the river on their backs. And back then, you could get all the herrings that you needed for a whole year in about an hour. One couple of dips with a net, and we would take those home, clean them, salt them down with iodine salt, and eat the damn things all year. And as the months progress, they get saltier and saltier and thinner and drier. By the time you eating them around about wintertime, man. You want to talk about why? Both my mother and my stepdaddy died of heart attacks. You want to know why? Boy, we was eating probably a half a cup of salt a day. But this is something we looked forward to going down the river and bringing those herons back. But to the extreme was my neighbors. A lot of people, we used to call them in Richmond folks from the country. Like people would move to the city a lot then from.
He gonna come back. He gonna come back.
Am I back?
Yeah, you back. You back. People would move from the city.
They moved from the country to the city. We would call them country ass people. They would be like still out on the farms and shit, and they would move to the city. Not to debate them like that. I ain't mean y'all if y'all meant it like that. So, but they had a lot of habits, man. And one of these habits, I don't want to say all of them, but like they would eat this food, man, we call tangy meat. And tangy meat is like when you take decomposed meat that's done gone bad. And back then, the stores would just throw bad meat into the dumpsters. Now I think they have to put lime on them or destroy it in some way so it's no longer edible.
So
But
nobody
not
grab
then.
them. Yeah.
They would just throw it in the dumpster by the grocery store, and people would go in there and dig in there. You got to fight cats and dogs for them and shit, though.
What's it called? Tang? You said tang meat?
Tangy.
Tangy meat? He gonna come back. He gonna come back. I don't want to talk where he come back.
All right, I'm back.
You back. You back. But okay, so when the last time you ate herring that way? And I hope you ain't no tangy meat.
No, I ain't eating no, I never ate the tangy meat. My mama told me I couldn't eat on the people's house no more, man.
Yeah. Don't ever eat that. My grandma.
But I ate salt herons probably. Man, it's probably been. It would probably kill me, But for food tradition, I grew up eating a lot of catfish and trash fish, which poor people would be all on top of each other at the river fishing. Not today.
You don't eat
go
catfish?
back. I eat them if I'm exposed to them. I don't go out of my way. I've eaten millions
I
of
love
them.
some good catfish though,
Oh,
but at
shit.
the same time, I know, but I only
Yeah.
eat it so rare. Like when somebody has some good catfish, I don't
Right,
usually go to like they got these JJ fish and chicken out here and all that kind of stuff. I don't go there often, but every now and again I get some catfish. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. I love hearing your stories about Richmond, about North Carolina, about the army, about all the different things that you go through, man. And I feel like, even knowing you, but I know you a lot through your stories as well. So I just want to appreciate you for that. What are you working on? What can we look forward to in another is another season coming? And then is it some stories you're really looking forward to? What's coming up for you?
Well, I'm pretty much getting things set to start up with another season, longer season. This month, the end of the month, I'll be going to New York, doing something with Julie Shapiro and Audio Flux it's that Audio Fest.
A fest in New York he going to. So he gonna be out there for New York with
Yeah,
Julie
I got a audio piece that's going to be released there.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's good stuff, and I got baby goats coming, man. And I got a paper I'm working on.
You got audio, you got baby goats, you got family and grandkids you was telling me about
All
beforehand,
all
and
of
all
it,
those
man.
things.
All of it, man. Legacy, right?
Looking forward to it, man. I'm looking forward to it. I tell you this, man. Much success to you. It's great to be there from the start of things to all the things that you're working on now. I want you to know from my heart, I'm rooting for you. I look at you as my brother in this, so I just appreciate you, man. We on the same team always, brother.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate what you're doing, man. Keep it
Yeah.
going.
No doubt, no doubt, no doubt. I'm gonna say a few words and then stay on because I want to talk to you on the other side.
All right.
Thank you so much for joining Storyteller the Storyteller. Make sure you like and subscribe. If you like storytelling, the Moth, Risk, Snap Judgment, Homemade, What's Ray saying, all these podcasts, join, become a part of it. This is a brand new podcast, so make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. I'm going to be coming at you every week. So next week we have Binky. Binky is an amazing, amazing performer in Chicago, here in Chicago. He run a show called Grown Folk Stories, and I'm excited to talk to him. So just continue to join me, like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate you. Always wait till the last second to do this. Boom, boom, boom. I see you.
Now that's homemade.
Hope I ain't pressed the mute button on myself.
No, man. You loud and clear.
Cool, cool.